Hey guys, today's read is out of 1 Samuel chapter 20 and 21. As you read this today, what was your takeaway? What was the law enforcement principle that you can use in your daily life and also as you meet people in the streets? Some of the notes that I took from today were first out of 1 Samuel chapter 20 verse 7. We see that Saul had been planning to kill David. Now, when David didn't show up at the festival and sit with Saul and his commanders, Saul went crazy. He went nuts because David didn't show up, which thwarted his plan to kill David. And the takeaway from this for us as police officers, I think, is we're going to see evil. We're going to recognize it. We're going to see it in people's behavior and how they appear to us when we show up on the scene. Jesus told us in his word that by their fruit you will recognize them. He said that they will be in the appearance of sheep, but inwardly they're ferocious wolves. And then the next takeaway, I was reading chapter 20, verse 23, and we see the relationship between David and Jonathan begin to grow. As I went through this and read this and started studying this, it's very much like what I see in Christian police officers and how their relationships are built at work. They have this bond. The Bible says we're called, we're also set apart. And that's what David was and Jonathan was at the time. So they had this relationship, and I wanted to read this to you. In verse 23, it says, "As for the agreement of which you and I have spoken, behold, the Lord is between you and me forever." Usually when something gets in between you and another person in your relationship, it's not a good thing. But when it is God, he's like the glue that holds you together, and it can't be broken. Going back to 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 1, it says, "Now it came about when he had finished speaking to Saul," and this is David, "that the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as himself." These two guys have a bond. And like I said, it's very much applicable to law enforcement officers today. Going down to chapter 20, verse 42, again, Jonathan said to David, "Go in safety, inasmuch as we have sworn to each other in the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord will be between you and me." These two guys, they loved each other. They fought for each other. They stood up for each other. They had each other's backs, and that's what we do in law enforcement. So I hope you read today's Bible verses and chapters. And if you hadn't yet, go look up 1 Samuel chapter 20 and 21 and read them. And then for a side note, when you get done with this, if you want, you can go read Psalm 34 and 56. These are two psalms that David wrote when he was going through this very specific situation. And you can see some of his thoughts and how he leaned on God once this was done. Be safe out there.